everyone, welcome to FMA Talk. I'm your host, Datu Tim, and this is my wonderful co-host.
PG Ty's here. Welcome, everyone.
Hope everyone is doing well out there. We got a bunch of things. We have a good show planned. This is the second last show of the season. The second last night, because obviously the last show we do two parts, hopefully, if we can coordinate that properly. Real quick. Ty, what did you do this weekend?
This weekend, I got to see some fun people out in Delaware.
There we go. Yeah. So this weekend I taught a seminar in Delaware, and Ty and PG Chad hosted it with at Cornerstone Martial Arts. Oh, Mr. Hiltz, how you doing? This is the second last road trip I have. Next weekend, I am up in Cambridge, Ontario, for the Southern Ontario Modern Arnis Camp.
I wish I could go to that. That looks pretty good.
Yeah. So I left. So for those who didn't know, Thursday night I left for Delaware because we had a snow warning, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. 5 foot of snow later, 5 feet. Now, just so if you look at my Facebook page, you'll see it on there. But I'm going to show you what I came back to. So this was after. Let me see here. This is after a little work. Let me see. I'm just going to share the real. It's going to take a moment here to share this one right there. So this is after a few hours of work. You can see all the striations right here of all the layers of snow.
Yep.
Now, Andrew's at the event as well. So. For those who haven't been up here, now I had a guy reach out to me, and talk to me. Oh my God, that was crazy. I go, it could have been worse. He goes, how could it be worse? I go, 8 years ago to the day we had 8 feet of snow. So, yeah. No rants today. I mean, we'll see how the show. The show could turn into the rants. Who knows? I had a good time last week because we talked about the top 50, and they released a list of 100 influencers. Yep. What I would like to do is look at doing a top 10 list for ourselves. 50, I mean, and that's a hard number too. It's a real hard number. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to talk about like FMA influencers because like I made the top 50 list. In my opinion, like we talked about last week, I don't feel comfortable with that. Not because I don't think I've done my work. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm doing my work. I'm doing the show. I'm doing seminars, doing all this other stuff. But I don't put myself in the same category as Remy Praces, Ernesto Praces, Roberto Praces, the Quignetes, the Saavedra brothers, Anton Bacon. I think that there could be a better list. I also want to talk about maybe the top 5 or 10 most influential Filipino martial arts too, because part of what I want to talk about is there's a lot of different systems out there, but how many of these systems had actually impact and changed the trajectory of our industry? That would be a controversial one because people will get butthurt because they were left out. But
that keeps it interesting.
Yeah, it makes for a good show.
There you go.
And Steve, cool. How you doing? We're doing well over here. All right, so I'm not gonna waste time. I'm gonna get right into this. So right off the bat, this show is about where you teach, how whether we teach in a full-time commercial school like mine. Are you in a rec center? Are you subletting space from another school? Are you teaching in the park like you teach? Are you teaching on your own property and variations of that as well? So So I'm going to go with my first surprise host or guest, and then we'll go with the guest who actually inspired the show. So first of all, Craig Mason is one of our PGs, and he is in his home dojo. We're going to talk about that because it's a lot different than normal people training on their property. How you doing, Craig?
Good. How's everyone?
Good. Did you have snow?
Very little, maybe an inch or two.
I think they exported it from Canada to Buffalo.
I get all the cold weather, right?
Yeah, you do. You get colder weather, and the bad thing is for those who aren't unaware. Oh, and by the way, how's my sound?
Good.
For those who are unaware, when we talk about weather in Buffalo, it's really not Buffalo. It's South Buffalo, and West Seneca is ground zero. Actually, when we were down in Delaware, I was talking to Janice on the phone, and I hear in the report the county from the county office, and the advisor's like, yeah, it's storm parked over West Seneca. It is ground zero. It's always ground. So lake effect snow is the weather usually goes eastbound, and it sucks the moisture out of the lake, and it moves in 10 miles and drops. Well, coincidentally, both my house and my school are 10 miles in from the shore. So we always are the epicenter of this. And it's funny because like some parts of Buffalo had very little, if any, snow, and you wouldn't know it. There'd be, and it's like we had the 8 foot of snow. North Buffalo had like 8 inches, and it's only like 20 miles away. All right, so here's the second host. This is actually our primary host. So our guest. This is Guro Francis Serrano, Big Boy Eskrima, from FMA School. Sir, how are you doing?
I am doing well. I understand what it's like when it's cold because I live in Southern California. Like I said,
Here comes the comedy act.
Yeah, I'm just saying, man, it's cold here too. I understand where you guys are coming from.
Yeah, it's cold. It's 60 degrees.
So, I have to wear 2 t-shirts today. I mean, it's crazy, man. It's like, oh my goodness, is this the end of the world? Oh my gosh. So yeah, no, it's hard. I understand. I completely understand what it's the weather like where you guys are from. So yeah.
Need to come up in January to Sudbury.
There you go.
Hey, if that's an invite, I'm always game to learning and working with other people. So
you might become a block of ice afterwards.
Well, I've always been cool. So
all right. So let's talk about this. So we lost PG Tye. Well, he knows how to come back in. So his computer. Oh, there he is. Are you throwing us off here?
Yeah, it must have froze. Literally, it was so cold.
It was so cold it froze. There we go. All right. So and he actually really what it boiled down to. He didn't like being on that side of the screen. So.
That's what it was.
Well, the host will be on this side and the guest will be. I wonder if I can do that. Can I move this around? I've never tried. Oh, look at that!
Oh, he's gonna hang up again, Tim. You gotta put him back. He's gonna hang up. Look.
I'm doing this. This is all me here. Look at it. I can change people around, and so I never tried that before.
Well,
Can you put my head on Craig?
We don't want to do that. So, I get inspiration for our shows quite a bit. Ty and I talk about different things, and sometimes I see posts, and you had a post. And I'm going to see what my dog's chewing on, but I'm going to let you. I'm going to mute my mic because you might hear me yell. Why don't you tell us? You made a comment on YouTube, a video,
okay.
And that was the inspiration for this.
Sure. So the inspiration of the comment on that or the video that I made out of it was in how cold it is here in Southern California. And how we feel exactly how everybody is feeling in the weather in the East Coast. Now, what we were talking about is the strengths and like the pros and cons of having a home gym, or a home Joe. I think that's first time I heard that. But yeah, just kind of the benefits of that and why a lot of people are so they want to get a commercial. They want to see a commercial school. And some people don't. They look down upon people because they have a home studio instead of a commercial school. Now, nothing against commercial places. I think they're amazing too, right? But for the most part, why is there such a? Not everybody, obviously, but why do people look down on home studio as compared to having a studio in a commercial location?
Well, let's specifically start off that you had someone who was going to sign up with you.
Yes.
Until they found out you were teaching out of your garage.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was actually somebody from
East Coast.
Yeah, somebody from the East Coast. And they moved because the family's in the military, and so they move around a lot. So they moved over here. The teacher in the East Coast actually said, "Hey, there's this guy. I don't know them personally. I've never talked to them, never met them, but they actually said, hey, there's this guy in the West Coast, and kind of close to your area. Go check him out," which was me. But then they made an appointment. They didn't show up. And then I'm like, okay. And then I found out their initial message to me was, hey, we have a family emergency. So I'm like, hey, I'm praying for you guys. I hope everybody's okay. Then they go, and also because you teach out of your house. And I'm like, I was very tempted to say, I don't want to pray for you guys anymore. I was very, very, I didn't say it, but I was very tempted to say it. But yeah, that really sparked a thought in me, like, why is it that people look down on people who teach out of their home?
Well, we're going to talk about the pros, the cons, and all this other stuff. So let's start off with the bat that, first of all, my mindset is, because I'm going to be saying some things that that I don't want anyone who's listening or a guest to misunderstand where I'm coming from. I've said these things a bunch of times in the past. So first of all, it's important no matter where you're teaching, the more people teaching, the better chance the Filipino martial arts will go on to the next generation. Absolutely. And we need as many people teaching out there as possible.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Exactly.
Now, let's flip this around. There's a difference between a school and someone teaching, professional. Now, I know people like Bobby Tablado. We'll use Grandmaster Bobby as a perfect example. He has converted his garage into a nice studio. Have any of you been to it yet?
Unfortunately, no, I have not.
Okay, really nice. For Balintwalk, you could probably fit 6 to 8 guys comfortably in there. Any Largo Mano style, 2. But he's not a commercial school. Now, he is a professional martial art instructor.
Mm-hmm.
But in his case, he's not running a school. He's doing private lessons. Just like you could be a personal trainer and you could train people out of your house. You can go to a gym and train people, but that's different than owning a gym. So we've had a whole series on FMA discussion about professional schools. I've been very vocal about it. I don't think less of people who don't fit in that fit into different categories. Once again, the more of us out there teaching the art, the better it is for the art.
I agree.
Yeah.
But let's I think maybe the stigma had to do with when you go to a karate school, most cases it's a physical location. You go to a taekwondo school, physical location. So on and so forth. You continue down that road. That's more of an East Coast thing. Now, for those who aren't familiar, there is a dynamic, a paradigm in the West Coast. So, first of all, real estate is very expensive. Okay. And a lot of people teach out of their own homes and their garages, converted garages, because it's so much more expensive. I mean, just houses alone. I mean, the house I have here, is not, it's a nice home, it's 4 bedrooms, 2, a acre of property. Not going to get in what the price of it here, but on the West Coast, it could easily be a $2.5 million based on the real estate. When Rob Calisani came up to our camp, what was that, like 2007, Craig?
Yeah.
He's from Clearwater, Florida. Okay, Clearwater, Florida. He said, Tim, do you mind I ask you how much the house is? And I told him the number. And this was back then. He goes, yeah, you couldn't touch that in our area for 1.5. So now it's probably easily 2.5 million. And I know real estate is very expensive. I mean, I'm lucky. I've got 5,000 square foot. I pay $3,300 a month. Other places in the area would double that. In Buffalo, and I'm part of a martial arts consulting association where people are paying $10,000, $15,000 a month in rent.
Wow.
So I get it. I get why. I mean, so it's very common on the West Coast. A lot of Kempo people teach out of their homes. A lot of FMA teach out of their own property. So,
Tim, if you don't mind me interjecting,
sure.
I mean, yes, I 100% agree with you. There is a price discrepancy between California homes versus other parts of the country. There's no denying that, right? But we also have to look at it. It's not just because it's in, because it's so expensive to get a commercial property, but we also, I mean, you guys all know, if you guys are homeowners, you have to look at your home as an investment. Because the appreciation value of your home, I mean, that's one thing we can say about California. Yeah, the houses are so expensive here, but it appreciates a lot faster here too, right? So easily you could, if like you just by in comparison, when you retire and you sell your home here in California, you could be retiring with a few $1,000,000 in your account. Right. So then now if you think about the idea of, hey, I want my house to make money for me too, right? Teaching at home makes more sense now, because now it's offsetting my mortgage. It's imagine gas prices as well. Being able to travel back and forth from your own commercial studio is also another added cost. It really, the math also makes sense from a business perspective to, like, maybe having a home studio is not a bad idea.
Well, and that's the same everywhere. That's not just in California.
I agree.
All right. What I'm saying is, though, there's more of a paradigm out there for people to treat. And FMA, unfortunately, it's such a minority of the martial art world.
Yeah.
We have a problem attracting people to us. You have a Taekwondo studio, or fill in the blank, whatever's hot in your area.
Yeah.
San Antonio, Krav Maga is the Taekwondo in the area. I've been to a chain of Krav Maga schools that the smallest school was 30,000 square feet.
Yes.
Okay. That was the smallest facility there. You go to Philadelphia, a lot of American Kempo. So
Right.
but FMA is always the minority. We talked about on the thing, there's only a handful of professional commercial schools out there.
I agree.
Very, very few. Now, different from saying someone's a professional FMA instructor.
Absolutely.
Okay. But as far as a brick and mortar location, I know when we did the 3-part show, I would like to vet all the people that said, they kept saying the number kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I don't agree with those numbers. I'd have to hear someone tell me that, I'd like to ask a few questions, because I think a lot of times people say, well, I'm making money, and they misunderstand the difference between, like, I taught out of my basement. I taught out of my backyard. I taught out of my garage. Not a school. I gave lessons on my property, which I'm all about. Don't get me wrong. When I did my Balint walk, I went right to Ted Buot, which was Anshan's successor. I went to his house, trained in his basement. He walked me in, walked me out, shook hands. It was a great experience, but he was a retired engineer. So this was a little side hustle, but really it was about keeping the art going, or at least his branch of that. I think, especially if we're talking East Coast, if you had someone who transplant, I think a lot of times when you say a school of something, they're expecting a school.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, and listen, Bobby Tablata teaches out of his garage. I'm not talking about that you can't have quality lessons. Ted Buot taught out of his basement. Okay. I've done private lessons in my place. Remy's taught in my backyard. So I'm not saying that can't be done, but I think, especially with someone relocating, it's very easy for people to be used to karate, taekwondo, fill in the blank schools.
Right.
And then they come to the FMA industry and we are
teaching out of our backyard. Yeah.
Or off to somebody else's school or a rec center or fill in the blank.
I completely agree.
And I'm not talking about, we're still not talking the pros or cons.
Right.
We're talking about the dynamic. We're going to get into the pros and cons.
The perception of everything. No, I completely agree. I mean, I want to emphasize that, again, just like what you're saying, Tim, I don't fault people who have that that they need to have that commercial site. What I'm just, I guess, oh, you're making me dizzy. What I think that we need to understand is that, quality does not necessarily mean commercial location, right? It just
Oh, yeah.
I know that's what you were saying, Tim. Just again to piggyback to what you're saying is that it does, commercial location does not equal quality, quality training, right? And I think I think if there's anything that video talked about, that would be that.
Well, I think in terms of like numbers of sheer people, right? Probably the most bad effect of dojos, if you will, is when they have a commercial location and they get hundreds and thousands of people, right? And that doesn't happen on the small scale. So you could make an argument the other way. But sometimes.
So let's start off. Let's start off with Tye. So Tye, why don't you tell us about your? So we all four of us teach. Yours is. You're probably the most Filipino of all of us when you think about where you teach environment-wise. So tell us where you teach.
It matches some people we know over there, yes. So local park. We get together in the basketball courts or sometimes in the field at the park, and it's a set time every Sunday. And we go over or start early, and we just gather and train. It's sort of like a very informal. And yeah, I've got on the order of 10 people that come pretty regularly, and it's pretty organic, which I like. And for me, what's the motivation there? Motivation there is twofold, and the second one is actually accidental. The first one is, I work full time. I have a travel schedule, and it's hard to put up what it takes to have a regular commercial schedule and a regular commercial location. Just that commitment. I didn't want to leave anybody hanging. But the other thing I noticed was when I'm doing that, I end up getting people that are already self-motivated, that are committed of their own self, because there's nothing making them come.
That's true.
Well, let's talk about the other part. Tell everybody how much you charge.
It's really a lot. There's a lot of zeros. It's all zeros.
All zeros.
Right.
So PG Tye donates his time. He's teaching people for the love of the art.
Well, they donate their time, so I get more practice.
Yeah. So I mean, he's getting something out of it. He's getting training partners, but he's not making this a commercial business.
Right.
He's teaching in the park, and for those who haven't been to the Philippines, I would say 95% plus Filipino martial arts schools or clubs or whatever in the Philippines are taught in the park.
But they're charging.
Yeah, but they're charging. Actually, right. I only know of. So there's Dulce Par's headquarters, which is the world headquarters. So I don't consider that a school per se. That's the HQ. So that's a unique entity. And even Rodel de Guck, who has Arnis Village, it's really he's selling sticks, and is part of his showroom is his dojo. But really, most of his students he teaches in Luneta Park. So he does more private lessons on his property than anything else. So I don't know of any Filipino martial arts schools in the Philippines that have a brick and mortar location other than those two HQs. Rodel had Arnis Village, which was down the street from where he is now, and it couldn't survive.
Was Nick's GM Nick Elizar, was that building that he was at, was that on his property or someone else's?
That shelter we were in was somebody else's.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't commercial either. It was more like somebody's.
Yeah.
I know of one guy in Manila. His name is Roland Isla, right? And he is, Cali de Leon, but he has a commercial site. Off of his, it's not on his whole property. It's on a commercial site, and he does pretty well.
Is that his primary income?
I'm sorry?
Is that what he does for a living?
I do. Excuse me. Sorry. I do know that he's a day trader, right? Okay. But to say what's the ratio of his income based upon that, or what his wife contributes, I wouldn't know, and it's really none of my business, of course. But having a commercial studio, it needs to be at least sustainable, because you can't, you know what I'm saying? It's got to pay for itself, the very least.
Yep.
So he's had that ever
Absolutely.
since 2008, if I remember correctly.
So we know of one, which basically
Nice.
goes back to what I said. At least 95% of the people,
I agree.
unfortunately,
Unfortunately, yes.
yeah. And the sad thing here is what I don't like. I keep telling when it comes to FMA, we got to get the F out. We are martial artists first that teach martial arts. The field of expertise is Filipino, but a lot of times when it comes to us, we've had this on another show. Well, we talked about a full-time school. Well, we're Filipino martial artists. We can't have full-time schools. We got to get rid of that mindset. That's ridiculous. So, we have just as good of an art, if not better than most of the other arts that are out there. And to handicap ourselves saying, well, we're Filipino martial artists, we can't have nice things is a bunch of hooey.
Mhm.
Well, I respectfully disagree. And I say this because I think that there are, especially in this day and age, there are more people doing research, right? I mean, when I first started in the 90s, there was no Google, there was no Yelp, there was no YouTube, right? But now people doing research and and so I marketed my school, my system as the martial artist for the serious martial artists, the martial arts for serious martial artists, because they want to learn something that's more quote unquote exotic, right? And then to remove the name Filipino from the it's just to say that it's a way that it hinders us. I respectfully disagree. I think that if you market it correctly,
Francis,
yes,
that's not what I said.
okay,
No, yeah, that's not what I said.
okay,
I'll say it again. Okay.
Okay.
When I say get the F out, I don't say we don't call it Filipino martial arts.
Okay.
What I'm saying is stop using Filipino as a handicap.
Oh, yes. My apologies.
Okay.
Yes. My apologies.
So
As an excuse,
the problem here is we all look at our. Okay, so I'll give you an example. We're on the show.
My bad, Tim. My bad.
Yeah. Because the whole nonsense that we're Filipino martial artists, so we can't have a martial arts school.
Yes.
We're Filipino martial artists, so we can't have all nice things like everyone else. Is bullshit. The thing here is
1,000 agree.
we are just as good as anyone else out there. Now, I'm not saying strip away the Filipino. What I'm saying is we're martial artists first that teach Filipinos. We're specializing in Filipino martial systems.
Got it.
Get the F out doesn't mean stop using the word Filipino. Matter of fact, we use it more so. We're proud of our heritage.
No, you know what? I apologize. That's my bad. Yeah. You know, one of the first people I talked to when I was opening up FMA School was Pat O'Malley of Rapid Arnis. And I remember I told him, like, because I was very fortunate. I started teaching in the Philippines. And I found this really great location that the guy, the place did not charge me. It was my church, this church, they had this really giant hall that I can use, and they didn't charge me anything. Well, so when it came down to like how much do I charge people, you base it upon how much it costs you to run that business. Well, it's zero. So I'm like, how do you base it from that, right? So I remember I talked to Pat, and Pat goes, just find out what the local taekwondo or the local karate school charges. Oh, that makes sense. And then charge 5 times more than that. I'm like, oh, okay. So I was like, and to be honest, I first started charging 250 pesos. So that's what, $5? I don't know.
Yeah. Yep.
$5 a month, right? Yep. Nobody signed up.
Right.
Nobody signed up.
Right.
And again, it's like, okay, maybe I should lower the price because it's too high. I don't know. I just moved there from the United States. I talked to Guro. Yeah, he goes, no, you got to go up. The moment I went to 1,000 pesos a month, that's when everybody started signing up.
There you go. Yep.
And that's when I really quickly realized that nobody's going to put value in what you do until you put value in what you do.
That's true.
And so I'm just like, yeah. So Tim, again, I apologize for misunderstanding. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. No, and that's why on the show we talk about things, and because sometimes you might be looking at something differently. And here's my other co-host, by the way.
Oh, hello.
Yeah. Sometimes this is Tier. He's a lap dog. He's 170 pounds.
That's right. Well, I was going to say on that charging, Francis, one of the things I noticed with the zero is that I only got people that already knew they wanted it, or they might be masters in other styles and they wanted something else.
Yes.
They knew how to commit. And so, hey, I win.
Absolutely.
That's my payment. I get good students, but hardly any.
There's a school down the street from my home. They also teach Filipino martial arts, and the owner is a friend of mine, right?
Mhm.
He and I had a discussion about how much he charges his students, right? And he said he can't go above $90 a month, and that was like he did it once. The guy left right after that. That was it. And I'm looking at him, and I'm just like trying not to laugh, because he's my friend. I don't want to laugh at his face. He goes,
You're
what?
gonna do it on YouTube.
I know. So he, and he goes, and he's looking at me. He's like, "What?" I'm like, "I don't want to tell you how much I charge." He goes, "What?" I'm like, "I charge a minimum of $125 a month with a 12-month commitment." And he asked me, like, "How'd you get them to do that?" I just didn't give him a choice. So like, no, that's my price. Now, don't get me wrong. I've gotten students that they really want to learn, but they don't have that financial capability. Then I'll work something out with them, right? But as far as what my value is, now again, learning from that lesson, I dictate my value. Nobody else does, right?
Good.
Yeah. So, like I said, let's get back in. So Tye teaches out of the park.
Right.
What are the pros and cons do you find teaching out of or what advantage do you have teaching out of the park?
Flexibility is a big one, and the space. But obviously, cons are weather.
Yeah, you have snow in your classes periodically, don't
We
you?
do. If it's
Just the way the traditional Lapu-Lapu did it, right? In the snow.
In the snow.
That's
There
right.
we go.
In the snow. Although, if we're out there waiting in the snow and somebody doesn't show up, and then someone shows up late, we usually might say a few choice words for them as we were getting ready to leave.
Right.
But yeah, we'll train in the rain and the snow, and all, but still, it does affect you. And there are times when it's everybody calls it off early. That's okay.
Mhm.
But yeah, flexibility is a plus. I think the space, and I like being outdoors.
Yeah.
I mean, I really do.
And you don't have your class times or set times, Tye, or you just kind of
They are set times, but we can go late. We start early. I have really good mats, which is the grass field.
Nice.
Plenty good.
Nice.
Yep, and it replenishes itself.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, the cons would be the weather. I'm not going to do break falls and stuff like that in the mud, except for if I do a training camp out. That's different. All bets are off. But yeah, the normal ones you would imagine. And we don't have a brick and mortar, so we don't have a big sign for people. I used to mount a sign when I was out there, so people knew what the heck with these weirdos with sticks and knives and whatever we're doing out there. And I've lately stopped doing that. But so you don't get past 5 visitors. And I don't also advertise since I'm not charging. I'm not advertising, so it's just social media and word of mouth. But that's served me well so far. But those are the trade-offs. Yeah.
Okay.
Wonderful.
So obviously, could you make money off of teaching in the park? You could. I know we've seen it during your fall fling and spring fling of personal trainers teaching in the park. They do that all around the world. There's personal trainers, and then there's the personal entertainers, the guys that phoned it in. But that's a Jason Arnold comment when we were up at
Nice.
Oliver's thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but then we go into the home location. So, we've got 2. So Francis, tell us about yours.
Well, I guess one of the biggest pros of teaching out of my own home is that my neighbors knows that this is not the house to mess with. Right? And I'm literally saying this because this was a few homes ago, my neighbors to both my right and left side, somebody broke into their car. But they didn't break into mine. Because they know this is not the house you mess with. Right?
Or is it? Or what kind of car did you drive? Maybe that was the case.
No, my car was nicer than my neighbor's car. I will say that.
Okay, all right.
And number 2, one of the biggest, like these Jehovah's Witnesses and the Latter-day Saints, they don't come to my house. I don't know why. I literally seen them walking down the street, knocking on every door, cross the street just to avoid my house.
Aren't you ordained yourself or something?
I'm a youth pastor for the United Methodist Church, but there's no sign outside my house that says that, right? I'm not turning water in my front yard or anything like that, right? So, but they've literally, I mean, I'm like, I've actually heckled them. I'm like, what? We're not good enough to get to your heaven? Is that it? So, so that's of course an advantage in itself. Like, this is not the house that you mess with. The second thing that I think that right off the bat is one of the best benefits is the commute is amazing. You know, from my bedroom to the garage, right? So I always tell my students, you're only late if you get there before I do, after I do. Right. So if class starts at 7 and I don't show up till 7:05 and you showed up at 7:03, you're not late because you were there before I was. But it's really hard for me to be late when I just go to my garage. Right. And ultimately, I think the biggest benefit of it all is because my overhead is low. My overhead is really low, and I get to I get to do what I love and make some good money because this is my main source of income. This is where I get my most bread and butter from. This is how I support my family. This is how I support myself, and be able to do all the things that I want to do. This is how I do it. So, but yeah, I mean, any business person will tell you that keep your overhead low so you can have a high profit margin. Right. The hours are great because I can work whatever, I only work literally 4 hours a week. I mean, I only teach 4 hours a week. Let me be more specific about that.
How about your boss though? I hear things about him.
Yeah, he is a bit of a jerk. He's so handsome. I can't really get angry with him.
There you go. Guapo.
Exactly. He's super guapo. But more importantly, it's like I said, it's like when I, if I want to increase my revenue, I don't work more hours. I just add more students, right? In that same amount of hours that I'm teaching, right? So ultimately, those are the biggest pros. Now, the biggest cons, well, I don't have the weather issues you guys do. So, I mean, when my students tell me, Guru, it's raining. What, you think attackers only attack you when it's bright and sunny?
Exactly.
What are you talking about? Let's train Filipino style. It rains all the time in the Philippines. Let's go train, right? So honestly, the drawback of somebody complaining that it's a home studio instead of a commercial studio, it's too far in between. For me to really say it affects my bottom line to do that. But yeah, it's really. I'm sorry. I will say one drawback. People know where I live. People know where I live, and people can just Google that anytime they want. It'll be on my website. People know where I live, and so that's the only. So of course, my family's safety is very, very important to me, kind of stuff. But yeah, that. I would say that's the only drawback is people know where I live.
That's an interesting one.
Now, of course, do you? So, are you teaching primarily on your front lawn, driveway,
Garage.
or are you teaching in your garage?
Garage, driveway. So.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Now, how much square footage do you have in your garage?
I don't know, man. I'm not that kind of Asian. I don't know. So,
2 car, 1 car.
I can fit 3 cars in my driveway. I can fit 3 cars in my garage.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's pretty big.
So
that's a good size. Yeah, that's a good size garage.
Yeah.
So, well, then of course, if you all look right now, you see where Craig's in. He's got the home Joe, which is the home dojo. So he's got the Tommy mats. I know because I helped him get them. He's got. You can't see now. He's got ropes hanging down for exercise. He does a fitness class. He's got kettlebells, slam balls, you name it. He's got it.
But that's only just in your garage, right? You don't do your driveway, I think, right, Craig?
Yeah. No, the only time we did the driveway is when we had to social distance when things were starting opening up. But my primary, basically, it's everything is out of the garage. Footprint wise, the garage is 1,100 square feet, but I've got about mat space between 700 and 800 square feet of mat space. So it allows me to, which is nice. I ran a commercial school for a short bit because when I inherited Sudbury School of Martial Arts about 12 years ago, I had a huge place in a mall, but working full time like yourself, Ty, it's difficult when you're putting in 50 plus hours a week in your day job. But I do it for the passion and love of the art. I love teaching. I love training. And so I actually closed that space because it was basically costing me to teach. And I was actually renting out a gym for a while, which was great. It was 5,000 square feet. It was an awesome gym. But anytime that they had events, it was a Montessori school, I had to move all my equipment out of the gym.
Right.
So when I built this house and we decided to actually turn into the garage into a school, that's it. And a lot of the pros is basically what Francis was just talking about, the convenience. I never thought about that con about people do know where I live, but obviously, I do have a sign outside of the window, basically, that advertises that the school is here. Obviously, in the wintertime, because it gets pretty crazy in terms of the parking. I'm lucky I do have some parking across the street, which is wonderful. But I know people pulling in and out of the driveway can get pretty congested in the wintertime. But I can fit comfortably, 10 to 12 people in swinging sticks in this spill without any problem. When we had the northern camp back in September, we had 14 people here. When I did my seminar back in June, I had 16 people, and we actually had enough space to actually everybody to actually move around without any issues.
Well, I would say your home, Joe's not too typical, though, Craig.
No.
So how long did it take you to gather all that stuff? And
slowly over time. Like I started off obviously with the puzzle mats, and then like everything, you can kind of, there's,
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And then,
like Tim said, I know schools that are not that well equipped.
yeah.
Commercial schools. Yeah.
And
Or,
over time, obviously, to make more footprint, because I actually had more equipment than this. When I first opened, and it was actually pretty tight. I couldn't fit a lot of people, but building shelves, building stuff. Like I've been here January of 2013. So I've been here going on 10 years now. That I've been teaching out of my garage, and it's taking me almost that amount of time because I just acquired these mats not too long ago. So back in February of this year. So little by little. And, I reinvest a lot of stuff that I, make, my class sizes are small, but it allows me to cover my overhead. I've got a good student base. I got, a great group to train with, and allows me to train because I do run, basically 12 classes a week.
So I'm going to throw all of us under the bus if anybody doesn't mind. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But so anybody who's watching the show and maybe you teach in different circumstances, if you're in any of our areas, I would venture to say it's worth looking any of us up, particularly Guro Francis and Craig. Check out their places and how they do their home and how they run their classes. It might be interesting. So there, I threw you all under the bus.
Oh.
Thank you very much.
So, and because we keep talking about size, just so everyone knows, like if you're talking a regulation competition ring, usually 20 foot by 20 foot, which ends up being 400 square foot. Yeah. So, you said, so Craig has actually got at least the size of his whole thing is probably just underneath 3 of those, but the usable space is basically 2 full-size rings.
Yep.
I got 2 acres, 2 basketball courts.
You got plenty of it.
Really Largo, right? You teach.
That's right.
Yes, you got the ultimate Largo playground there. I was looking for mine. I can't find what I'm looking for, as usual. This dang snowstorm threw me off.
Well, I think we all have videos too, right? So I think, Guro, Francis, I think I've seen some of your videos where I've seen your driveway. I don't think I've seen the inside garage.
I think there's been a few that's been inside the garage, but I try to keep this. Unfortunately, the garage. I wish I had one just like yours, Craig. And I put that on my Christmas list. I have my sister. I live with my sister and my mother, and so they have stuff.
Sure.
Right. So I'm just like, it's always been a fight every time. I'm like, we got to do a garage clean out because I need more room. It's always a fight with my family. But afterwards, they're like, wow, look at all this space. I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, right?
Well,
I think
at the end, they're like,
Never seen a vehicle.
And I don't want anybody to get me wrong. You know, I think it's about the space and the opportunity and the training. So,
Absolutely.
however your place is, that's all that matters. So yeah,
Absolutely, yeah. So, no, I make videos in my garage. I make my videos in my driveway.
I saw one at a park or a trail or something near your place too.
Well, no, one of the I teach. I teach at 2 locations. One here in my home, and one in Orange County, which is about an hour away from me. I teach in a park in Orange County. So
okay, cool. So you do both, yeah? Okay.
I do both, yes.
Okay. Well, I think it's cool. I didn't realize that this is what you do for your main source of support, which is awesome. Kudos to you.
Thank you. So apparently, I don't like having nice stuff. So, like to eat outside, that kind of stuff. No, I think I'm very comfortable, with that. Being able to go to the movies at 2:00 in the afternoon, and so when any of the new movie, like I just saw Wakanda Forever, when that came out, 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, all closed, all full, right? Nobody at the 2 o'clock. So you're like, yeah, that's right, suckers. You and your 9 to 5 jobs. So
there's that flexibility. Yep.
So
very cool.
So
okay. So then, obviously I round out the list. I've got a full-time commercial school. I've got 5,000 square foot air conditioning in the summer and heated in the winter versus the other way around, because sometimes that's what happens. I don't have flags on the wall to cover up the holes in it. My office is probably close to 800 square feet by itself.
Wow.
My place used to be a banquet facility.
Okay.
So there's a lot of things I haven't cut into, like the office was the kitchen. So, I've got the kitchen area. The cooler's a little changing for staff. We've got 2 lobbies, and the nice thing is with all that space, I've got ample room to host events. So I've hosted tournaments in there. We'll have like 100 competitors, and still, and that's nice because then I don't have to rent space.
Yeah.
But
I think that's one key we all have, right? We all have to not worry about being at somebody else's beck and call, which is, I think, one of the best benefits we could all agree on.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yes.
And it works around my day schedule with my other job.
Yep.
Well, a few years ago, I was teaching out of a Krav Maga school near my home, and the owner is a really great friend of mine. But I'm stressing out because I'm like always worried that I'm going to break his stuff.
Mm.
I'm always worried I'm going to break his stuff. And of course, it only makes sense that he gets the prime schedules, right? He's the one paying he's the one. So for me, it was nice to be in a commercial site, but it was like, I need to have if I ever do commercial side, I would need my own commercial site because I need the prime hours, the prime schedule to be able to do that. And I don't want to be stressing out that I broke his stuff again. Right. So
I'm glad you mentioned both of those. I did the same thing. I taught at a friend's dojo, and it was a great facility, but both of those concerns definitely impinged.
Yep.
Absolutely. So, the guy and I are still really great friends. He's a brother, but it definitely stressed me out. Like one time he called me at 9 a.m. He said that there was water underneath the mats. I'm like, how did I do that? Right. And then apparently us mopping the mats every night that we use it was not a good idea.
Oh, okay.
And all I was thinking was, I want to make sure I found it cleaner than I found it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Boy Scout.
So he wasn't mad at me. He wasn't upset with me. It was just like, but that really freaked me out. Like I drove there right away. Like, is everything like? And he goes, "It's okay, bro. I'm just letting you know. Don't mop every day." Oh, got it. Okay, so
I would never mop somebody else's place, not because I don't want to help out, but when I've had people use my facility for other events, I don't let them mop because they don't know my procedures. And I one time someone tried to mop, that was such a cluster. Like, nope. I got this part. You guys do that. I'll take care of this. So
Well, you hand clean the blood out of the floor too, I believe.
there's no DNA that you'll find.
That's right. No, I joke because it was my blood at one of his events.
It was all, yeah. Well, that's because you and Ryan played too hard.
It was fun.
Yeah, and I had to take you over to the MAC Center.
That wasn't fun. I missed too much.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you were describing your place and we got distracted. So what else did you want to say about your facility and how it works for you, and pluses and minuses?
Well, I'm also thinking a whole nother story here. So, so my position is about, and we talked about this in class tonight. It's about the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the art going beyond me.
Right.
And to do that, we need as many numbers as possible.
Right.
Now, I've been very, very fortunate. Taught at my home, taught at my church, taught in the gym, got a small retail place. I end up in a office suites, which are a really good spot if you want low rent, usually office suites if you can work something out. Dirt cheap.
Okay.
Then I moved in my plaza, which was like a 3,000 square foot. Then they offered me the 5 at the end. I never once planned on becoming a professional martial artist. Me thinking about being a martial artist was like, it'd be cool to be a rock star or a NASCAR driver or astronaut or jet fighter or pilot. It was one of the, I'd like to be a black belt. That'd be cool. Never once thought that this is the path that I would end up. The furthest thing from my mind. It's one of those daydream fantasies you have. But the thing here is, I hated being around or having to be subject to somebody else's schedule.
Right.
Okay. So you live with your mom and your sister. The family's together.
Yes.
And I have a problem with that for me, because I like having my space.
Of course.
And that's why I have my own school, because I have taught out of other people's places. I taught out of a gym that closed in the middle of the night, and my people were left high and dry. Now, fortunately for me, the gym was doing all the money, not me. So I wasn't I didn't take a whole bunch of money, give it to him for rent, and all of a sudden they're gone and there was nothing left. I did right by the students the best I could, but the fact of the matter here is that I needed to know that I could come and go as I please, make all my own rules, and do what I need to. And that's why I ended up in this spot. Because I tell you, it was very challenging, always having to listen to somebody else. When I was in a gym, the room I used, it was a lot of times the aerobics program took it over, because there was the latest hot trend. So everyone wanted to do that. It's like, well, that doesn't work for me, and I have to worry about all these other things that are going on. I'm like, so for me to control my own fate, that is why I went the path that I did.
Right.
Now, then I was able to convert this into a full-time job, and this is how I provide for my family. This is how I pay my rent, my cars, the mortgage, you name it. It all comes from doing this as a thing. And it doesn't mean anything against anything else. We're all doing the same thing. Yep. We all have our things. But for me, why I think it's important why we have full-time commercial Filipino martial arts schools out there is because this is a place that people see. I average around 80 people a year for students. Okay. Give or take.
Right.
I've joined the school association to help me take it to that next level. I've produced quite a bit of black belts locally. And then I've got, Craig's one of my black belts, and Ty's a black belt in the association. And we've got 28 schools in North America, and we're going down to Brazil. Craig and I are going to be going down in the new year and doing things, and we've all gone to different places and third world countries such as Canada and Kentucky.
Well, actually, that's actually a good point. So the the drive-by traffic, the permanence, the things that go with it, even kind of some things that shouldn't matter but do. Having a brick and mortar out there, especially as a headquarters, you can't do that as easily with a home. You certainly can't do that in the park. Or even like one of the things we didn't talk about, I taught at a university for a while. I had 2 clubs at universities. That was great for initial showings, but it wasn't good for permanent showings.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I taught out of a local university out here too.
Yep.
And it was great. But then there's a revolving door of students.
Yes. Just when you get them to be able to start walking, then they go away.
Like they go away. I'm like, what do you? So yeah. So I do understand that. I think also, and don't get me wrong, Tim and Ty, Craig, I agree with what everything's being said, but I think also there's a bigger systemic problem that I think that a lot of Filipino martial arts instructors, and I think you have said this, like the difference between an instructor and a martial arts professional. If I said that correctly, Tim, I apologize if I said it wrong. Is that they don't see this as a possible way of being their main source of income. Right. And they just if you look at it always as a hobby, then it will always be a hobby. If you look at it as a business, as a main source of income, then it becomes that. Now, what I'm saying is I think that there's gradual steps to getting from here to here, right? Nobody's saying, okay, go get a bank loan, open a commercial studio from day one. No, I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is that I think that in order for our art to grow, we'll need to be able to make this more of a business mindset, like as a way of a main source of income.
No, absolutely. I think you're right. They shoot themselves in the foot by saying it's only can ever be their hobby, even if they don't say that out loud, approaching it that way. For me, once I get done with this job, I'm going to retire and I'm going to be teaching. So it will be my primary additional source of income.
Right.
I'm in the same boat. Yeah.
Right.
Actually, I think there's a lot of guys in FMA that want to do this,
right,
but they don't
know how.
understand, nor do I think part of the problem is an ego thing. A lot of people don't want to learn, put the white belt on, and learn the business of what we do. They think saying the business of what we do is bad. And I'm a member of MAIA, the Martial Arts Association. Martial Art Industry Association. I've been part of NAPMA, which is a National Martial Arts Professional Association. I was a whole bunch of different associations. And I've gone back and forth, and I go to trade shows all the time to learn more about what we do. And a lot of people, like I was over at Babakan headquarters for a tournament, and Regalan was there, and he had joined NATMA this before he left the country and went to Austria, if I'm not Brisbane. I think he's doing data entry down there or something. But actually, Craig, you've seen him a few times recently. But he joined NATMA. And I go, oh, how's it working for you? Oh, no one's coming through the door. I'm like, okay. But it teaches you how to be a better school owner. You still got to do the work.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times people think that you join something, it's a quick fix. And
yeah,
our main thing we say on the show is you got to do your work.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. I mean, one of the things that I also do on the side is I'm a marketing consultant. So when I tell people, you have to promote yourself. I mean, that's why I made myself very clear earlier. I teach 4 hours a week, 6 hours a week. But as a business owner, I'm running the company 24/7. I'm always trying to find ways to be better. I'm always trying to find ways to do more of the job myself instead of hiring somebody to do it for me, so that my overhead is low. Recently, I just picked up a client. They own a daycare company, and I told them that one of the things that I had to learn was I needed to learn how to edit videos. Right, because paying somebody to do it was way too expensive.
Definitely.
Right? So I learned how to do it. Right. I learned how to promote. I learned how to. I've been very, very, very blessed that I met a lot of people that have done well on social media. Justin Walters, John Correa of Active Self Protection. Doug Marqueta. you know, they kind of put me under their wing, and they taught me how to put myself out there more, and that's how, you know, it's doing well. But yeah, you're right, Tim. Not everybody's learning how to run a business, right? They're just let's just do this as a hobby, and part of it is also they're not charging enough, right? They're not charging enough because, you know, again, the very first thing I learned in business, in owning a martial arts school, nobody's going to put value in what you do until you put value in what you do. It's a very, very small percentage of people that sees the value regardless of how much they paid.
Yep.
Right. So for the most part, that's what they're seeing, and that's what's in line with having a commercial studio. They're saying, "Oh man, no wonder it's so expensive. They have a commercial space."
It helps them rationalize it. Yeah.
They have to rationalize it. So.
Okay, so we have our fun stalker who always posts stuff. I actually had to block a couple people saying stuff. So, of course, you know, Zombie Deep Dish Pizza changes his name every week. We don't know what it's now. Deep Dish Pizza. So, and I think this is a shot at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu here. They will charge Datu double for a Brazilian bikini wax. Okay, whatever. And then he goes, owning a dojo is one of the hardest businesses. People love you until they hate you. We know 70% of the people we meet will quit in 24 months or less. And then
absolutely,
stalker is hurtful. Okay, I'm sorry.
You hurt his feelings.
True. We'd love to find out who we really. He's one of those guys we'd love to have on the show, but we can't because
they're anonymous.
Well, I mean, I think that would ruin the whole effect.
Ruin the mystique.
Yeah, I mean, but anytime he wants to come out of the YouTube stalker closet, by all means, we will have you on the show.
I'm pretty sure I know who he is.
If you want to wear a mask, we can do that too.
Well, I mean, here's what I'm saying. If this person is saying 70% of students that sign up, you know, leaves, maybe it's your system. It's everybody. A lot of people are ready to point fingers at something else, right?
Right.
But look first inside. Like maybe you're not offering something that people want to stay longer than 24 months at.
Well, and that's the point. A lot of people leave because they don't understand what they're looking for. You know, that
also happens. Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. I don't fault people leaving my school.
Of course, I don't either.
Because, you know, at the end of the day, if it's not what they wanted to do, I can't tell you. So I do a fitness kickboxing class. So, you know, I do a 10-week course, and then all of a sudden, probably halfway through, a bunch of people drop out.
Right.
It happens. Sometimes it's in week 3 because they didn't know. They hop into class, you know. That's why we do a trial. I mean, generally speaking, you know, I mean, it's hard these days because it's not necessarily okay. So if they stay 2 years, I think that's a good number. You know, so first of all, you were able to affect their lives in a positive way for 2 years.
True, very true.
And actually, no, you taught them for 2 years, which should hopefully affect their lives permanently for the rest of their lives.
There you go.
Positively, permanently.
You know, and I've got all of these. Unless it needs therapy, then that's a bad thing. But
That's right.
I've got a lot of testimony. Like a lot of people were talking about different things here and there about what's their, what are they going to leave behind? I go, with the quantity of people who have talked to me years after their kids have graduated, gone to college, got jobs, the quantity that said that they felt that training with me was what gave them an edge, that made them good people, that made them more confident. That is my legacy. I don't need my personal thing. I know I've affected it, and I don't need a public endorsement about this. I mean, it's great for the business, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But the thing here is I know that I've done things and I've helped people that needed the help. So win there. But, you know, the thing here is there's a lot of hobbies that I've started that I couldn't survive 2 years because my life changed so much.
Yeah.
And it's not because I didn't like what I was doing. Right. It just took me in a different direction. So let me see here. Hold my cheese while I cut it. You're funny here. In general, green belt, halfway rank. Hardest part of the class is showing up. Yep. And there's our friend from Brazil.
Oh, nice.
Hey,
all right, we're going to be going down. When are we going down there, Craig? Do you remember? May? Okay, we'll be down in Brazil.
Mayo.
All right, Rio de Janeiro, baby.
Excuse me.
Bless you. This is Brazil. Oh,
I know.
I'm sorry. That was
Fast and Furious.
yeah.
Yeah.
Dominic.
Yeah.
The
Well,
episode
okay,
that
I mean-
The Rock showed up.
I mean, part of it, like I was mentioning, my marketing background. When somebody leaves the program, it's very important from a business standpoint to learn why they're leaving.
Yes.
Mhm.
Because you need to know, is it something that you can control or is it something beyond my control?
Right.
If somebody told me I'm moving, I have to leave because I got reassigned to another base, that's beyond their control. And that's beyond my control.
Yep.
Right. But if they're saying, you know what, it's because, you don't talk to me enough. Well, I've literally had some student that left maybe 3 months ago. Right. And he texted me saying he wasn't feeling well. I said, okay. He dropped out of the program because he felt like I didn't respond in a way that made him feel special.
Mm.
Right. And
You're
this
teaching
guy,
him.
This guy's not a kid. He's 54 years old,
Yeah,
retired
okay,
sheriff.
okay. Wow.
Okay, so, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, if you're sick, I'm not a doctor. I can pray for you. That's my background, my educational background. I can pray for you, but that's beyond what I can control. But, so, things that I have control with and things that I don't have control with, right? If 70% of my students are leaving within a year to 2 years, I have to look inside and say, okay, what am I doing wrong? How can I change it? What can I do? Because many times it's something that I can control. And if I can control it, then I'll make the adjustment, I'll make the fix, and hopefully retain more students. Again, you got to look at it from a business perspective, right? Why did they leave? So
It could be that the product you offer they have no interest in.
it could, and that could be too.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
There's nothing wrong with that, right?
you
I mean,
go into a restaurant and you think, okay, it's Italian. I'll give it a shot. Afterwards, you find out Italian's not your thing.
Yeah. I mean, I always say, like, maybe they're just not, man enough to do FMA. It could be that. I don't know. Right. No. But yeah, but it's multiple times. I would say if a student leaves, it's because, work has changed for them. Somebody
brown chicken noodle soup. That's what the zombie says.
For the guy.
I know, because I've been sneezing, so thank you. But it could be that, like I said, their work circumstance, they got laid off, right? So of course, this is not a necessity as far as their family budget is concerned, right? Those kind of things. So I get it. Things happen, but we still need to know what we can control and what we can't.
No, you have to. Yeah, you have to do that. Otherwise, you're missing. You don't know what you're missing if you don't do that.
Okay, here we go. Pain points: getting hit, choke. Not for everyone. Where mutants were on YouTube at 10 p.m. Okay, anyone?
I mean, that's like you got some good, like,
Well, the thing. Okay, listen. So my thing here is, I think everyone has the potential. I think martial arts would be good for everybody.
I 100% agree.
Not everyone's looking for all aspects. So we talk about it all the time in our system. There's martial art, there's martial sport, there's martial combat. Now, those are 3 of the 4 cornerstones. The 4th cornerstone is martial business, not necessarily to make money, but you need to be business-like when you are, let's say you're looking to get a spot to train, even if it's not for profit. So Tye doesn't charge for training, but let's say he wants to say, all right, guys, the weather's changed. We need to look at getting a facility. It's going to cost money. And all they're trying to do is cover their expenses. They still have to understand about recruitment. They got to understand about, insurance, waivers, all these things that can happen. Going through all these points, you got to be business-like. I mean, there's a lot of non-for-profit organizations out there that have corporate people keeping the doors open for them.
Yeah.
We have to understand that. I mean, I know Craig. I'm going to use Craig as the example. Here's a big push point. Craig has insurance to run his school, and because of the association he's a member of, martial art association, besides us, it's a very inexpensive deal because at the end of the day, he's got a nice home. And without that could come back and bite him in the butt.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I can't tell you how many FMA instructors I've met that are uninsured, and they don't do an LLC or any kind of corporation.
Yes. Yes.
Let me see here. 5th martial cosplay, Tai Chi. Okay, you got that. All right, and then not BS, not basketball. Oh, hey, wait! You can't mention basketball on an FMA show, by the way. They take it very seriously. That and the only thing that they take more seriously than basketball, karaoke. But anyways,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I agree. I mean, it's like even if you're teaching out of your garage, you should have insurance, right? If you're I don't know how you can insure a park. Obviously, that might be some
well,
level.
you insure the instructor. So I use Francis L. Dean and Associates. That
Yeah, me too.
doesn't only do my facility; it can go with me wherever I'm going to teach.
Exactly. That's what I do as well. So, I mean, it's like, again, minimizing risk, minimizing overhead, right? Having insurance if somebody, I mean, let's face it, we do a very physical business. Somebody might get hurt, right? And you want to be able to at least support them. Like, so when I used to tell people that, okay, this is the monthly price, and then you have to pay this one-time yearly price for the insurance, they're like, why do I have to get insurance? I'm like, well, if somebody gets hurt, oh, I have my own insurance. Yeah. Do you want to really risk? And I just stopped. I got tired of explaining it, so I just included it into the cost of being a member of my school.
I would have done that right from the get-go because that's what I've always done.
Well, I learned the
you
hard
you learned the lesson, you know.
And the thing, and that's another aspect of business. You gotta learn from your own mistakes, right? You gotta learn from your own mistakes and then figure out, like, okay, well, that wasn't a good idea. Let's try something else. So, yeah, no, having insurance is very, very crucial.
So I think with the show, I'm going to talk about when you did your episode. I think part of the problem is there's this perception of professionalism or lack thereof when someone does business out of their home, any kind of business, kind of business.
Yeah.
I agree.
So, I've got a guy that's next to me owns the next two pieces of property, and these guys have seen it. These guys, he's got these huge buildings in the back. He does blacktop. It is very professional, but the last 300 feet of all of our property is zoned commercial. So he was able to put his stuff on his property. So it's not like the same thing. Like if he was trying to get a let's say a state contract, he probably isn't the guy that's going to get it because you're going to drive up to his office and it's his backyard.
Right.
Doesn't mean he doesn't do the job, but the same thing too is there's only so much equipment on that backyard as well.
Right.
So it's not like he can just load that bad boy up. We just had the road done by the school, and that was done by a private contractor. And usually it's done by the state.
So, I mean, I will say this, that 2 years ago, I was about to sign the lease on my first commercial location. Okay. And right before I could sign it, I was reading the contract, the lease agreement, and they added something in the lease agreement that wasn't part of the original conversation. So now, any contract negotiation, there's no amount of paperwork that's going to make me trust you, right? You either, so there's a leap of faith in any contract negotiation. When they added that, they said, oh, well, it's, I'm like, it's standard. Then why didn't you say anything till now about it? You're trying to sneak it in under the radar. So I walked away. That afternoon, Governor Newsom shut down the state. So could you imagine if I signed that lease, I would have been paying the commercial site for a year, 2 years, and I can't have anybody inside. Right? So
they would have no,
they would have.
No. If they would have shut the site down, then they're saying you can't do business. That would be means to break the contract.
I know a lot of guys in California that shut down their commercial site because of it.
Yep.
So it's but either way, it's I mean, and I'm not saying I'm never going to get a commercial site. What I'm just saying is sometimes it's timing, right? Sometimes it's timing. And for me, what was the indicator for me to start looking at commercial site is, am I losing more money because I'm at home than if I went to go commercial? And one of the other indicators for me, like if I go commercial, how long will it take me to make some money off of that space? And to answer my own question, I was able to, if I did get that commercial site, I would be making money right from day one, not from 60 days, not 120 days. It'd be from day one.
Okay, I believe. Okay, this is from Talis from Brazil. I believe that to do a martial arts attractive and to the potential. Will you be quiet? Oh my god, my dog's killing me here. Ty, I gotta mute this. Can you read that while I deal with this knucklehead?
Sure. Our Way Down South friend says, I believe that do the martial arts attractive to the potential product is part of business. And it's not a
Yes.
question to change your core, but just to change the presentation and the approach. Sure.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, I
completely-
think you've thought about that a lot, Francis. I can tell.
Yeah, from market. I mean, it's marketing, right? It's marketing 101. You got to make sure that it's something that, wow, I want to try that. You know, one of the things that I've been doing most recently in a few years is leaning towards the fact that I am a big person, right? And instead of making that be a hindrance for me, I'm like, well, if I can do this, what's your excuse why you're not doing it?
There you go.
You see what I'm saying? So yeah, I completely agree with our friend from Brazil that it's, you know, how it's presented.
Well, like myself, okay, so when I promote my school, I don't promote it as a Filipino martial arts school. I promote it as a martial arts school.
Right.
The sign karate is on the outside, but you also, if you look at the windows, it does say Filipino martial arts on the windows.
Right.
Because if I said Arnis Kali Eskrima, what quantity of people do you think would actually know what those words mean?
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
that's fair.
So it just says, and even Taekwondo schools at one time, before Taekwondo became as popular as it is today, used to have the karate sign up there because it's only 6 letters versus Taekwondo, which is a lot more letters, means the font has to be smaller. Now, when people come in, I'm very much about educating them. Like I have one of these homework cubes. It's a homework dice. You throw it down and they'll say, all right, do the dishes, take out the trash, clean the room for the kids. So if it comes up free day or a game, what I say is, all right, you'll get that if you answer the question. So I'll say, okay, what country is our martial arts from? And most of them will say Philippines now, without hesitation.
Nice.
The newer
nice.
ones, you know, I go, okay, what kind of karate do we do? And the answer is, we don't do karate.
Right.
You know, and then they're like, okay, so then what's the national sport of the Philippines? Okay, and I'll ask you, you know, who's the founder of Modern Arnis? And we'll go through this, and I'll promote the fact that I do Filipino martial arts, but initially, I promote that we're doing martial arts first and foremost. Right. I don't rebrand the art. I just how I use it's what I'm doing for my advertising to get people from the door. And I've had some people give me grief over that, but they don't know what they're doing anyway, so I didn't care because these are backyard martial artists and people who had a problem with me because I was with Remy and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, we're trying to get people through the door.
Right. Absolutely.
I don't care what the ad says. I mean, I don't want to be misleading, but the ad has one job only, and that's to get them to contact you so you can talk to them about what you do.
And close the sale. I agree with you, Tim. We do what we have to do, and it is about branding, right? For me, I've decided to brand it as like I said, mentioned this before. It's the martial arts for the serious martial artist, right? So you know, it's I like the name of my business is FMA School, only because it was available. The domain name was available.
Yep.
The name of the school is Filipino Martial Arts School. Just so that nobody's misunderstanding that's what it's about. We got the big giant sun logo right smack dab in the middle. So again, it's very Filipino. But and again, if I was to market to more of a general, broad-based potential martial artist, then yes, I would probably change the brand. Right.
Well, it also works in your area because you are in a high concentration of Filipinos being in the Bay Area. People reach out for social media.
Right. Well, I'm like 8 hours from the Bay Area.
Oh, okay. Oh, where are you at? SoCal?
I'm in Southern California. Yeah, I'm in Southern California.
Okay. All right. Well, there's only 400 families here in Western New York.
Well, no, I would say about 40% of my student base are non-Filipinos.
So 60% are.
60% are, and because a lot of it is because they want to connect back to their culture,
which we don't have that same quantity of people to tap
right.
into. So the thing here is like my town, the town I'm in. Okay, so the Filipino community is a 20-minute drive from me.
Okay.
So, and for Buffalo, that's a long distance.
So
I mean, unlike when I was in the Bay Area, I sat in I've been very. I was trying to cross the bridge. It took me an hour and a half one day. So that was a long that was long for me, but normal for them. Here, if I have to wait 5 minutes at a light or traffic, that's a long thing in Buffalo. So I can get for so being way out there, they pass so many martial arts schools.
Right.
They're not used to commuting so long. I've only had a handful of kids that have come through because they're in addition to wanting to do martial arts, they wanted to do something that was culturally relevant to them.
Of course. Let me just say this: the nearest concentration of Filipinos from me is about an hour and a half away.
I was going to say the room right next to you, but
yeah. Besides that, but the largest concentration, the nearest largest concentration of Filipinos is about an hour and a half away. I have students that normally drive at least an hour and a half to get to me.
Wow.
And in your region, there's people who actually do that. Right.
And what I'm just trying to say is because it's branding, right? I'm targeting specific people within the market, right? Like they're like, I really want to learn FMA. I don't want to learn anything else. I really want to learn FMA, and that's who I've been targeting as far as.
No, and I get that. I mean, that's why Craig drives 12 hours round trip, and I does about the same, and people fly in from different states. So I get that 100%.
You get those people that are pre-chosen it; they're already committed. That's what I get. Actually, believe it or not, 30% of my students are Filipino.
Oh, there you go.
More than I got. Because my trips are on hiatus at the moment, so
which I take as a big compliment. But yeah.
Well, I mean, let me just put it this way: let's just say in neighboring counties. I live in Riverside County. There's San Bernardino County, San Diego County, Los Angeles County, Orange County. Los Angeles, of course, everybody knows. San Diego, everybody knows. Orange County, maybe a lot more people know about that. But let's just and this is a really low number, right? And let's just say there's 7 million people that lives within those counties, and clearly it's a lot more. But let's just for the sake of this discussion, if only 0.1% of that wants to learn FMA, that's 700,000 people.
That's right.
So if 0.01% of that wants to learn FMA, that's 70,000 people. Mm-hmm. If all of us open a commercial studio right now in Southern California, we still can't fit 70,000 people.
Well, Tim and I have talked about it a lot. There. It's not that and we should never consider ourselves competition for each other. There's more than enough.
There's more than enough. We're all fighting for the crumbs.
Exactly.
Right? There's like a whole pie.
That's exactly.
I've literally said this to other Filipino martial arts programs near me. I said, why don't we use our limited marketing resources to support each other than to go against each other, right?
Well, I do those events twice a year. The open kind of local schools all get together, and we do a day of training out in the park.
Nice.
Have a picnic and all that good stuff. We have styles that a lot of times you used to not get along together, but it doesn't matter. We're all teaching together, and we all end up benefiting from that. It's amazing.
It's a win-win situation.
Yep.
But I guess to my point here is that again, the way Tim did it, and hats off to you, brother. Kudos to you, Craig, Ty. I think you guys are amazing already. But again, it's if you understand, and Tim was saying that and you guys were saying this, that if you understand business, right, there is a huge pool of potential customers out there.
Yep.
You just need to let them know that you're here. That's that's what Tim was saying. The main purpose of advertisement is to get them in the door.
That's right.
But the way I look at advertisement is that you can either throw a big net, or you can throw a fishing rod with a specific bait to catch a specific fish.
Yep.
Right. And to me, I go the latter. We're like, okay, I'm going to aim for the military personnel. I'm going to aim for the law enforcement. I'm going to aim for the survivalist. Right. I'm going to, and then so by getting those, the Filipinos are still kind of, they're still checking out the program. Right. So, yeah. So, I mean, it's all about branding. And then when they tell me, well, you teach out of your house, I'm like, remember all those cool martial arts movies in the 80s and 90s?
That's right.
Where did they train? That's right. So I'm like, this is the real stuff right here. Right. So, and again,
muted, Datu.
Okay, I had a mute. You can talk about those movies back then, but how many people actually are old enough these days to know those movies?
That's right.
You know what? Honestly, in fairness to these new generations, because of streaming services,
that's right.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Like Cobra Kai, right? With Cobra Kai.
Well, Cobra Kai is current.
No.
Five Deadly Venoms, not so current.
No. Cobra Kai is definitely current, but they want to understand the original storyline.
Mm-hmm.
so they want to go watch the original Karate Kids, right? So I mean, that's my point. I mean, like one of the things that, like, one of my favorite TV shows is Friends, right? When they released it on Netflix, a new generation of fans came out of nowhere.
That's true.
And then Matt LeBlanc, who played Joey, he said fans would come up to him and say, "Oh my God, you're so old." It was 20 years ago, kids.
Nice.
So I mean, again, we live in an information age. We live in a social media age. You know, yeah, people can complain about social media and how toxic it is. No, social media is not toxic. It's the people who use it. The way they use it is what's toxic.
Yep.
Right. But it's, I mean, could you imagine Professor Remy Presas if he had the resources that we have today?
Oh my gosh.
How much bigger could modern Arnis have been?
Yep.
Same thing with
yeah. Well, you know, we talk about this, and a lot of people really don't understand what Remy did and what impact he had.
Exactly.
I mean, there's a lot of people. I mean, and I don't want to take anything away from Guru Danny Asano, who's,
of course,
but he didn't promote a specific Filipino martial. He's probably done more for martial arts as a whole than any one person, giving all the different arts such as Silat, Muay Thai, BJ, all these other arts exposure that may not have gotten it on their own, or he gave it a little early exposure to things. And you know, but when it comes to promoting a specific system of Filipino martial arts, I don't think anyone's done the work that Remy Presas. Matter of fact, the Presas brothers are to FMA what the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, what the Gracies are to BJJ. And Renee Tungsten and I were talking about that the other day. There's a lot of good people that have done some heavy duty things, but
of course,
to
say that they didn't make an impact would be foolish.
Yeah. But
right?
I mean, you know, when it came to Remy was a goodwill ambassador and got it in the school systems, worked with the law enforcement, military. I mean, there was almost nothing that he didn't do at one time or another. The only thing he didn't really do, he fought, but he didn't fight sport Arnis. He fought street Arnis.
Right.
Which I felt the benefit of that kind of fight. I don't know if
firsthand, yes,
but I felt it.
Yep.
I understand. But I mean, but like I said, it's like, could you imagine the resources that we have today? And we're talking about Diony Cañete. We're talking about the original Doce Pares members. We're talking about Professor Remy Presas and his brother. We're talking about Tatang Ilustrísimo, right? I mean, could you imagine what kind of global reach they would have had, right? If they had the resources that we have today. Yeah. Social media is free, right? Social media is free. Could you imagine the kind of impact they have? But then I always go back to saying this is why they taught us, so that the message continues moving forward. So now we have these resources. What's our effing excuse?
Right.
Well, you know, at the end of the day, we got to figure out what is our mission statement. Now, listen. So I've said this a whole bunch of times, and it's getting to that point. We're going to start wrapping things up. But here's what you got to remember. You know, at the end of the day, everyone has their own mission.
Of course.
Okay. If you don't care about and I don't want to say this in the wrong way. I'm not talking about the panel here. I'm talking about in general, the people who are watching.
Fair enough.
Some of you don't care about what happens in the future of the art because you're not there for that. You're there for yourself. You go to the gym. You don't care if a gym, like if you go to the gym to work out, you don't care if it closes. You'll just find another.
Right.
And some people that's the only level of investment they have in the activities that they're doing. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not their responsibility to worry about the future. But if you're like me, which I know members of this panel are, we're worried about the future of the art.
Absolutely.
If you're doing this just to put food on the table, there's only a certain level that you need to worry about. But generally, I think we need to have more commercial schools because the more visible we are, the better our community is going to do. It doesn't take away from clubs, backyard groups, park groups. It doesn't do anything like there's nothing wrong with that because, you know, at the end of the day, you want the big boys to show up and do the seminars for you. It's usually the commercial schools that pay for it. It's not the backyard groups. I was fortunate to get to the point where I could pay for, I was a good marketer So I never had to worry about losing money on Remy. And if I even came close to that, he wouldn't have cared. Just pay me later. But most of the time before I started hosting Remy, we had the college take care of the bill. We had another full-time school take care of the bill. You know, when somebody's got to flip the bill for these teachers, then it's usually, when talking, the big boys with airfare and all this other stuff, someone that could take the financial risk.
Yes.
And I mean, I back in the 80s or no, the 90s when I was hosting Remy, it was 2K, and that was a lot back then. I mean, when you're making like $5 an hour, $2,000 is a lot of money. Yeah. We had Peter Kautz on. I was like, yeah, we were like making $3-5 an hour, and a Remy video was like $60. So like, whoa, hey, so we need everybody because they all have a different role.
I completely agree. I think, first of all, I think you're right about people who brings in the big boys are usually commercial studios, right? I don't disagree with that. I 100% agree with that. I'm probably one of the few people that teaches out of his home that's brought over the big boys, like a Doug Marqueta or the Fred Mastros, right? At one point, I was even trying to bring Alvin Guanano out here. From Alvin Guanano,
you're breaking up. That's why I'm asking.
I'm sorry, Alvin Guanano from SBL Silat Buka Lingkaran or Silat Open Circle.
I don't know much in the Silat world, so that's.
No, what I'm just saying is, it's like, yeah, I completely agree that there's room for everybody. We talked about that a few seconds ago, Ty, that there's no need for us to compete. There's way too many more people out there that wants to learn FMA, and we're fighting over crumbs when the whole pie is right there for the team.
Well, the thing here is it's not fighting for FMA. It's the martial art industry in general. Do you know that less than 1% of the population trains martial arts? Hey, Dean, how are you doing? So if 1%, I live in a town of 45,000 people. Wow. It's not a big town, but it's big enough,
Right.
If 1% of the population trained martial arts, that would be 450 people. They're not.
Yeah.
Okay. I've got the biggest school in my town physically, and as far as population wise, I've got about 80 people right now, excluding my fitness members. And that's only a couple times a year. And that's maybe 30 people doing fitness, kickboxing. And it's not the same as the normal tuition. So that I don't want to say that doesn't count, but it's not.
Category. It's a different category.
So, and I don't need that to make the school work. I could easily just cancel it. I just, it's decent money. It doesn't get in the way. And but the thing here is that, like I said, I was looking at a comment here. Of course, he keeps throwing me.
That's what he does.
He keeps throwing me. See, I had an ex-girlfriend, and she had a few roles why she was an ex. Okay.
You said hi.
Yeah, pizza is just he's just pizza.
Yeah.
Anyways, all right, it'll probably come to me what I was about to go with. So I think in the big scheme of things, we got to look at what the 1% of the population. If 1% of the population is 450, we got 2% of the population, or half a percentile, more likely.
Right.
Which, if you're in a room of 100 people, there's 190, or if you're in a room of 200 people, you're the one out of that does martial arts, and the other 199 don't.
Right.
What we really need to do is get more people. If we had 10% of the population doing martial arts, people would be lining up at all schools. Because what would happen is you'd go to the big Taekwondo school, and they couldn't handle that kind of traffic.
Absolutely.
So, that's what we really need to be doing.
We're just scratching the surface. I mean, heck, in my area, there's 6.4 million people in the DC metro area. And I can tell you, of the 10 schools I know, we're not getting hardly any of those.
No.
And there's probably 20 schools that I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Riverside County, there's a few millions here. I'm not even 0.00001 of that.
No.
So, but I, as a business, I run it like, okay, how many do I need to survive my company, and how many can and it's at, I'm at that number. I can live comfortably, and I think that's ultimately what we need to focus on now. If more students shows up, hey, that's just called icing on the cake.
See, for me, that's not enough. And I want to say, I'm talking about your number, your percentage wise,
Right, of course.
because I'm trying to find an error. I'm trying to develop an army of students that can go and take it to the next generation. See, that's my motivation. I mean, because I'm looking right now for modern Arnis. I truly believe this, that if our organization was to shut down tomorrow, that the art would die. Not that second, but I look at the other groups in the States, and I don't see any of them having the ability to develop somebody that could take the art to the next generation.
Absolutely. I mean, and also, but there's also another problem. Just because we have 100 students, and I'm just throwing a number out there, how many of them can actually be a martial arts instructor?
Right.
And then we're not.
If you have 5 students, how many of them are going to be in there?
Absolutely. And then
That's why you need to get as many people through the door to find those candidates.
It's a numbers game. It's an absolute numbers game. I totally get that. So it's all a part of the, that's the name of my school, Visay Legacy. But that's all a part of what we're trying to do. Even if I have 1,000 students, how many of them are going to be teachers, and how many of them can understand business? Right. And understand enough business to be able to do. I had a student that tried teaching, and after 6 months, he goes, "No, it's too hard." And he only had 1 student. And I'm like, "Yeah, it's not easy. It's not a feat of heart. You need your own black belt just to be able to do business." Yep. Right. So but I agree with what Tim was saying. It's a numbers game.
Of course, if we teach them well, they'll have all those tools.
Well, there's that, but still, you can only find the unicorn from the right number of people, right? You need to go through a gazillion people to get those unicorns.
And that's why I tell all my teachers all the time, man, you guys are so lucky you have me. I'm like, you guys are so blessed that you guys got me.
There you go.
I'm the most active school in the Visay Legacy system. Yep. I love all my teachers. I love all my colleagues, but
no shortage of modesty here.
No, I'm super humble. Like, I'm the most humblest person.
The most humble. That's right.
Yeah, I'm the most humble because I'm your best student you'll ever have.
There you go.
I mean, I'll tell you this much, and my teacher will be pissed at me. But I moved to the Philippines in 2008, and this is before I actually started teaching in the Philippines. Right when I moved to Philippines in 2008, they shut down. Because their number 1 student left. Like, what's the point? Like, the best guy's gone. They say it's not that's not the reason, but I think they're lying. I think that the reason is because I left, and that's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
There you go. Well, I mean, it happens all the time, right? I've had a couple clubs, and I've had to move away, and a couple, half the time, maybe it peters out because even though you developed them, it just wasn't for them.
Yeah. And it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. Too.
Well, I must be lucky because I've had some of my top students leave because of work, and we're still open. But anyways, on that note, here we go. I believe that in general, we classify people who seek martial arts in 5 categories. 1, those who like martial arts / combat. 2, those who want to be part of tradition. 3, those who seek tools for self-defense. 4, those who seek something fitness. 5, those who are just looking for a fun activity. Yeah. And then what do we got? People get wives, kids, and both they go to college, and it hurt. The thing here is I lose people, and a lot of times because they're doing multiple activities. Like, what kills me, absolutely kills me, travel hockey. It's the worst. But the next worst is marching band and color guard. That's another one that so many of my people are in marching band. It's crazy.
Well, those marching band guys need to really learn how to defend themselves.
That's right.
I remember high school.
I like those 5 categories from Thailand.
Now it's okay.
Yeah.
It's
those were good.
They're amazing. Yeah.
I was just gonna say I like those 5 categories that Thales shared because I think that types into another part of business. One of the things that you want to do is if you can actually find people or attract people that have more than just one of those categories, they're most likely to stay with it and go on and do more. I mean, I probably each of us have a little bit of some of those.
Well, here, I want to tell you, so Tellus and I have talked a couple of things, and we talked about overcoming objection. Let me give you one right here.
Objection?
Objection. Oh, and Eric. Eric, so
Oh, hey, Eric.
man, hey Eric, did you just log in? Man,
he didn't get the memo.
didn't get the memo.
Are you Filipino? Is that what?
He's usually the first guy on the show. I don't know what's been going on here lately.
No.
So he's,
And I've always wondered, like, a lot of the FMA system uses the clock system, and yet, like,
yeah, but they can't tell time for shit. So the clock's running a little slow. Okay.
Nice.
I love my
Indoor.
people. By the way, I love my people. Don't hate me.
Okay, so hey, listen, it's not racial. It's okay. There's always a racial factor, but it's not racist if it's true. So
And last time I checked, I was Filipino. So
yeah, so you know.
So
And I'm just an idiot, so I'll just say I just got back from the gym. Yeah, you've been doing a lot lately.
Yeah.
He's been missing our shows, but that's okay. You can watch the rebroadcast. So so Talis and I were talking, and he ran into some issues because a lot of people don't want to do the Arnis because I don't want to do the weapons. I don't want to do the weapons. I'm like, how do you overcome that? I go, well, it's real simple. So here, I'm going to give you a tool for everybody who's like, I have not had this conversation in decades.
right.
Okay, when I say this, people don't question what I do. We just do it. So end of story.
Right.
But of course, now I'll have to say this. My Filipino system, Praces Arnis, the Praces Brothers Systems of Arnis, is a standalone full-service program. We punch, we kick, we lock, we throw, we do weapons. Some systems, like the Balintwalk, is weapon only. And today, if you're attracting people for a martial arts school in self-defense and all you teach is weapon training, that eliminates a lot of potential students.
I agree.
Okay? So when I say this, you might not... Okay, so when you have people, one of the things that come in, someone joins your club, they're looking for something, they do the trial program, they do whatever, and they quit. It could be that you just don't have a marketable service, and you should either look at getting marketable things or just get out of the business. Because like Kendo, as an example, it's going to be hard to, I don't know of any full-time Kendo schools in the United States, although I know Kendo instructors. I don't know a full-time fencing school in the United States, but I know a bunch of professional instructors. So it's certain things are harder to sell than others. And hey, Rich, how you doing? Speaking of my Balintwalk brother. So
we did have a full-time fencing academy just down the road, but that was a rarity. Yeah.
It's not the norm. It's the exception. That's the whole thing. A lot of times, especially martial arts, we're the worst. We talk about the exception as if it's the normal. What if the guy does this? Who the hell's going to do that? Come on, really? You know, you're going to, well, the guy can reverse you with this technique. You're talking about a person 1 in 10,000. I'm working about another 9.
Razor blades under his fingernails.
There we go. So what Talis and I was talking about down there, because he's in Brazil and he's coming over this and he's having an issue. And I go, well, here's the deal. You ask them this, because a lot of people, they want self-defense. So the first thing I would say is, hey, do you think knowing how to defend yourself against an armed assailant when you are unarmed is an important skill set to have? Now, statistically speaking, a third of all attacks are weaponized. So they go, well, yeah, that'd be a good thing. Perfect. So that's what our system does. Now, here's the thing. We start on equal terms. So first of all, we show you how the weapon works. I was getting into it with one of my kickboxing students who also does Krav Maga, and I'm a little snobby. You guys know that. And we're talking about, you know, they're teaching club defenses. Really? Do they teach you how to do the angles of attack and stuff like that? No, we just do self-defense. I go, how can you do self-defense against a weapon you don't know how it works? So before I would teach any firearm self-defense, which I don't teach, first thing I would do is teach them how to shoot. Yeah. Okay. So we teach the offensive capability of the stick, knife, fill in the blank. So, well, what about swords? Swords are machetes, and they're used all around the world. So we start from an equal situation. We both have a stick. Then after I build up better knowledge, skill, timing, and the big one, confidence. Then I take my stick, I put it down. You're armed and I'm not, and now we're in that self-defense scenario.
Well, now you have that
from equal terms, and then work our way back to that disadvantaged scenario.
Right.
And he goes, oh, here we go.
You make them get
remember, Datu, I may say that there is a 6th category. which are those who just like weapons, swords, and us sick individuals like us who just like stabby, pokey, slashy, which are all technical terms, by the way.
Yes. Yes, it
Well,
is.
so you mentioned that before, Tim, just this last weekend about, you did the same point, and I thought it was well taken. But I mean, we do that for everything else. We get some familiarity with something before we decide how we're going to deal with that thing. We do that everywhere else. Why wouldn't we do that with weaponized darts?
I'm going to teach you this kick, and then afterwards, I'm going to teach you the defense against said kick.
Right.
I'm going to teach you a takedown. Now I'm going to teach you the counter to said takedown.
Right.
Because someone may shoot in on you. Okay, and that's a common thing. So, you learn the hook punch and then you learn the defense. So, and these are the ways that we can overcome objection. And the thing here is a lot of times people just don't have the linguistic skills to explain this. I wish I had this skill set 2-3 decades ago.
Right.
Because I'd have so much. If I was who if I had all the stuff I knew now back when I first moved into the plaza, which I've been there for 21, 22 years now,
Mm-hmm.
my school would be so much bigger because I know so much more on how to run this well. It took me time. I got education, linguistics, and I did, and I make the knucklehead mistakes as well. I make good there's certain things that just happen. Then there's the dumb things you do, and you find out the hard way. But the thing ultimately, the only thing that's getting in our way from having nice things is us.
Yes, 100%.
Okay, here we go. That's it. Datu. Everybody needs to learn first how to punch before they learn how to defend a punch.
Yep.
Now, I will say this: a lot of times, especially in the FMA, we do a little too much cosplaying, and we teach historical martial arts as modern day defenses because I got to worry about the person. Like, I have no problem with all the counters and the recounters of those skill development things.
Right.
But who in the street's going to be able to do any of this stuff if we're 1 in 10,000? I had a guy from Stockton telling me all this stuff that, oh yeah, in the street this is going to happen. And, oh no, Sacramento. Then the guy, he checked me and I checked him back and then he rechecked. I'm like, what movie were you watching? Any of the guys in Buffalo that would know this stuff are my students, so I doubt I'm going to really, But all right, so
let's throw it open to Craig real fast. He's been quiet all the whole line.
Yeah, Craig, I'm going to need you to calm down, brother, because you're
too boisterous. No, but really, you got anything you want to chime in on? You've been holding your tongue for?
No, I think it's there's a lot of the points that were actually brought up, and a lot of stuff that everybody has said I can basically relate to, and as I did run a commercial school for a long time, and I saw a huge advantage there, in terms of the exposure and everything like that. Yeah, social media is massive, obviously, and that they phone books don't exist anymore. There's the only people that own the phone book is my 75-year-old basically aunt that actually
that's an analog Google, right?
Yeah, exactly, and everything is basically based on that, and I do a lot of joint stuff. Like Sudbury's got about 175,000 people, and yeah, we definitely don't have the 10% doing martial arts across the Sudbury for the amount of schools we have. So there's more than enough room, and that's why if somebody's looking for something, and I don't have the class or the program, I have no issues basically suggesting other schools in Sudbury. And I've had people do the same thing for me, because I'm the FMA guy, I'm the weapons guy in Sudbury.
Nice. I think part of it also, again, going back to promotion and marketing, is that when I post videos out there, nobody's questioning that I teach FMA. Yeah. Right. So if you call me like, hey, do you teach Muay Thai? I'm like, how'd you find me? I saw your video.
Yeah.
Right.
Nothing against Muay Thai. I think it's great. What I'm just saying is I'm not a Muay Thai guy. Right? That's just not who I am. So I mean, a lot of that is also alleviated by the fact that, again, just carving out that niche of customer potentials, customer base, right? Getting them to find me, and then they're like, oh, I want to learn FMA. I just signed up a mother and her son who they live in Southern Orange County, very affluent area, right? But there's no Filipino martial arts school out there.
Right.
And so they go to my Orange County group, which is about 45 minutes away from them, because I'm the only one that they could find, right? Now, I know another person that teaches FMA in their area, and I told them, there's another guy I know. I don't know him personally, but I know this person teaches there, right? They're like, no, we want to learn from you. Well, okay. I'm not going to stop you. Like, stop giving me money.
Right.
Do that. So, like, no, I've, like, my diamond toe shoes hurt, right?
Well-
So yeah, it's being able, when I market myself, I'm the, big boy screamador, like I'm the FMA guy. So
With the other, we mentioned it, just both of you brought this up recently, was remember we talked about some of the advantages a brick and mortar has is drive-by visiting and that kind of good stuff. Social media is the other aspect that we're making up for that. Social media is the new drive-by businesses and the new ways of marketing that it is viral essentially sometimes.
absolutely. I mean, it's like I said. I mean, imagine our greats, our forefathers in FMA, if they had the marketing resources that we have now. Holy Jesus! I think we'd hit that 1%.
Well, I don't know about well,
closer to the 1%.
Well, I tell you what, FMA would be bigger.
Oh yes.
I also think. Well, I tell you what, I'd be willing. Okay, so Ty and Chad probably know exactly who I'm thinking about. But if Remy was still around and he had the social media back, if he was around to have the benefit of social media today, so he would have been the same age as Danny and Asano. They're both born in the same year, 1936. So there's a good chance that and Asano's still going. Remy died of a brain tumor. There's really nothing that you could do there. But he was the Iron Man that he would just high blood pressure, gout, you named it, never stopped him.
Right.
But if he had the benefit of people like us working social media for him, my God, I mean, he's huge now that he's gone. I could just imagine how big, and there's a bunch of people out there today,
right,
that probably would not be as big as they are today if he was still around, because you put what he did teaching wise, in addition to a media package, social media package. Oh my God, it'd be crazy.
Right. So again, but then that's why they left us, right? That's why we're here. So we have the resources now. So I mean, I'll never be as great as my teachers, right? But but I still have a legacy to push forward. So.
Okay, so let's wrap things up here. So first of all, the big thing I see. So and here's what I'm going to going back to your video, which inspired the whole thing. Anyways, I understand why people will say, "Oh, you teach out of your home. I wanted to go to a school because all the other arts have schools." That does not take away, but at the same token, if you're going to pay professional prices, then we need to have professional service, and part of the service is the venue. So I understand why people look that way. But once again, Ted Buat, my Balintawak instructor, taught me privately out of his house. That was not a professional environment. Bobby Tabuada really did a good job of converting his garage, very much like Craig did, but no mats. Not as large, but it's a nice professional environment. But it's still, at the end of the day, you are in a residential area. You drive up, real steep driveway, really steep. And but it's still in someone's home. But no one would question Bobby Tabuada because he's Grandmaster Bobby Tabuada. No one questioned Ted Buat because he was Ted Buat.
Yeah.
So and I'm zombies making comments here. If I got to the point where I was going to stop, I would look at converting one of the rooms here. Actually, we still have the garage, but the garage is occupied by Janice's Mustang. Because mine is currently buried under a snow mound that you wouldn't know that it's a car there. But I mean, personally, I still like going to a place that I can get away from home. I'm not worried about people knowing where I'm at, but at the same token, it is nice to have that separation at the bulk of the people. But we've had parties here. We've done pool parties and stuff like that. People know where I live, but they don't come in my house unless they're invited. And
like vampire.
It's still, there is nice to have a separation, and I get that.
I agree. I do agree with that.
But like I said, and if they came from the East Coast, they're probably used to schools because I think there's less people that, well, I think the people that teach privately out of their homes, they're not known like that. They don't get that visibility per se. I mean, you got a reference from somebody, and part of that's because you have a social media presence.
Yep. So, I mean, at the end of the day, if they want to find a commercial studio, by all means, go for it. I'm not saying that they shouldn't, right? But a lot of that is because it is ignorance, right? That just because you have a commercial space is not necessarily equal to quality training, right? So
there's a whole bunch of people think, oh no, we got to flip it around. I'm not saying no. What I'm saying is there could be things that they're looking for that you're not offering.
And that's perfectly fine.
So you don't have a professional quality training facility that has heat and air conditioning at the right times of the year. They might want a bigger class for more socialization. They might want equipment that you don't have. So that it doesn't mean that they're ignorant. They might be looking for a total package, and you may have the instruction thing down, but they might want the other things as well. So
I don't disagree with that. What I'm just saying
I used to go to some bare bones gyms. But some people want some more amenities in there, and it has nothing to do. Like, I go to Planet Fitness. Why do I go to Planet Fitness? Because I can go anywhere there's a Planet Fitness and get in for. It's all part of my membership.
Right, I agree.
But like I used to teach in a powerhouse gym. I used to lift in a powerhouse gym. There's chalk everywhere, and unfortunately, the guys that were on roids were just too loud, and they scared a lot of people off, and they didn't. And then I'd have to yell too. Because I felt like I wasn't part of the club,
right,
and stuff. So let me see here. Okay, this is gonna be the last thing for Zombie. I found my teacher when I moved.
He's doing the Karate Kid story.
Oh, geez. Okay, all right, Johnny. All right. Okay, yeah. Okay, so he's killing me. He's killing me.
But you were gonna say something, Francis. So
listen. Just because someone teaches privately doesn't mean they don't have things to offer.
Absolutely.
And that's for everybody who's listening.
Absolutely.
But at the same token, I don't fault people that want a certain environment.
I'm not faulting them. What I'm just trying to say is that there's things that I can control and there's things that I can't. Right?
No, I get it.
So if I can control the location and the commercial side, yeah, I get that. I don't disagree with that. Right? But the one thing that I will say is that that's what I was just trying to explain to this person, that the quality is still there. Now, if they still don't want it, by all means, good luck. I nothing but the best for you guys. I hope you find a Filipino martial arts school that has a commercial site. Oh, there's nobody in SoCal, by the way. But good luck. Absolutely good luck. So
right.
Well, and you know what? And it would have been better if that was okay. And once again, it's a factor. We don't know how big a factor it was because they didn't really get too deep in it with you. But
absolutely.
Let's say it was a big factor and they didn't tell you about it. Then it would have been nice if they would have shared that with you, because you could have asked them more in depth. Well, what's the problem? Are you concerned that since I'm teaching on my home, I don't have credentials? Because then you can say, well, your instructor wouldn't have referred me to you. Or maybe it was the other things that they're looking for, other amenities, maybe, like look at like behind Craig. Craig's teaching out of his home, and you wouldn't know it by looking at his background right now.
Well, and then I'm just, to be specific to this person only, they never even made it to my home. So maybe I had a place like Craig.
Right.
So, but I do agree with everything you said, Tim, about what some people are just looking for something specific.
Yeah.
And I wish I could be the answer to everybody, to all the things that they need. I can't. Right. So
and none of us can.
Exactly. And all I can give is what I can give. All I can offer is what I can offer.
I get people who like doing katas that come from other places.
Right.
And I'm like, you know what? We do them. Well, we Anyo, Sayao, whatever. But it's like 10% of our class at most. It's not the core of what we do.
No,
Some people want to fight all the time. You know what? I'm sorry. I'm teaching technique. I mean, we're not a weak half gym.
Okay.
So if I was constantly trying to develop competitors for weak half or GSBA, which you choose, then I'd have a certain. Then I would have a sport Arnis school. I
Right.
don't have a sport Arnis school. I have an Arnis school that also does sport.
Yes.
So we are a self-defense school first,
right.
and then one of our secondary, tertiary things is going to be the sport, and we're getting ready to do some stuff.
Right.
And Eric teaches out of his house as well. Yep. But the
Eric, do you guys compete by any chance? Brother?
I'm sorry.
I'm asking Eric, the guy who's been commenting.
Oh, Eric.
Oh.
I don't think Eric does any competition yet.
Okay, no, because
I don't know.
I have a student in Oregon that moved to Oregon. I think he's near Portland as well, and he's been looking for some people to spar with. So that's the only reason why I'm asking.
I mean, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think. Well, okay, I doubt Eric has experience of Dose Pares or weak half style sparring. It's a different animal. But I know his lineage. I don't think he.
Of course,
he does not yet. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just didn't know. That's why I was just asking.
Yeah. No. It's always good to network because you got to find. I know there's a Kombatan school up there. I know some of the Kombatan guys fight.
Well, Tim, if you could send me some contact information after when we get off the show,
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, Datu is correct. Yes. Okay. Yeah. I'm assuming that about the lineage and stuff. So let me see here. So listen, I think there's a good conversation. I think all training environments can bring some good stuff to the table.
Agreed.
I think the biggest thing, like once again, what the show, what was about is, even though, I mean, you can't fault somebody. You have to understand some people are looking for certain environments, and some people want, like when I was with Ted Buat, I wanted one-on-one with the leading expert for Balintwak, and I got it.
Right,
happy me.
Yeah.
And I would do 9-hour round trips in an afternoon or day to go train with them.
And for all I know, they're looking for an ugly teacher. I get it. I get it myself, right? So
I stopped teaching out of my house 3 times, clogged the toilet. I don't even know why I even bothered looking at but
he's kind of entertaining.
He's something, all right.
Or she could be a she.
We're kind of zoning in on who we think he is, but
okay.
Listen. So I think it was a good show.
Thank you.
Listen, all whether you teach at a park, whether you teach at a home Joe or another home Joe or a commercial facility, you got to figure out what you're looking for.
Absolutely.
And sometimes the instructor isn't as important of a fact, isn't the biggest decide. Maybe it's more the environment that you're looking for. So some people, when they come, they may just looking for a social activity,
Absolutely.
And if all you're doing is private lessons, my Balintwak instructor wouldn't have been the one to train with.
Absolutely.
It was all private lessons.
Absolutely.
So it's all good. We all got something different to offer. We all have a different way of going about it, and you got to figure out what works best for you.
Yeah.
So, Francis, do you have anything you're promoting? Any events coming up soon?
Actually, no. Unfortunately, I'm pretty much done for the rest of the year. But if you are in Orange County's Riverside County area, and I'm looking into opening up in LA as well, just please go to my website, FMAschool.com. We also offer distance learning online classes as well. But yeah, so if you guys are looking for a program out here, FMAschool.com.
And you have a YouTube too, right?
Yes, I do have my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/FMA School. If you guys want to follow me on TikTok, it's at Big Boy is Screamador.
There we go. Big Boy Screamador. And then is 413 another thing with you as well?
Yeah, 413 is my marketing company. So I don't really.
Is that your zip code or area code?
No, it's actually not.
Okay.
I'm not a ludicrous song. I'm not one of his songs.
Okay.
So
I do 716 Arnis and kickboxing, so because that's our area code here.
Well, I mean, if you guys want to know, 413. When I was trying to come up with a company name, I didn't want to call it. My former business partner wanted to call it because of my faith, like Christian something, and I'm like, no, I don't trust companies that this says ilovejesus.com. I don't. Your Christianity should be shown through your actions. Then he was like saying, oh, how about something Filipino? I'm like, no, because it makes it look like we only cater to Filipinos. I'll take everybody's money. I have no problem with that. But then I remember
there you go.
I prayed about it, and Philippines was named after King Philip II of Spain. The etymology of Philip is Philippians, and Philippians chapter 4 verse 13 is I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Nice.
That's why it's called 413 group. So
Okay,
yeah.
cool. And now you know.
And now you know.
All right, so great show again. According to, can't believe you actually stayed for the whole thing. Steve.
Hey, Steve.
You're
It's
the
the gold
man.
star.
Happy Thanksgiving or Indigenous
Happy
Day or whatever you want to call it
Yeah.
to everybody. Listen, if you just hang on for a minute, I'm going to take both you and Craig off. Craig, you got something you're promoting?
Not at the moment. I'll just be seeing you at the end of the week.
Yes, we'll talk about that. So I'm going to take you guys off. You're going to be in the back room. You'll be able to see what's going on. We'll be wrapping up in just a moment.
Okay.
And I just want to say goodbye
Oh,
before
hang
you
on,
guys
yeah.
take off. So hold on. Those two are there. You can probably, we can see you, us too, but you can't see. Actually, can you see them?
I can't see them. No.
I can see everybody because I am the all-knowing.
It's your
So
stuff.
interesting show. I
Oh,
like
that worked out well. That was good.
It worked out well. We represented 4 different paradigms, 2 versions of the home, Joe. We got you representing the outdoor park center, me as a commercial. At the end of the day, everything has a benefit. You just got to figure out which works best for you. That's what we're working on. But at the end of the day, it's always at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Do your research, because just because someone's teaching out of the home doesn't mean they don't know what they're doing. Just because they're in a commercial school doesn't. You know what that means? If they got a good commercial school, they're good at martial business.
There you go.
They may not good at the other thing. Gobble, gobble. Then what we got here, enjoyed the show again, Glenn. All right, thank you. Walang anamang. So this weekend up in Canada, I'll be teaching the last road trip of the year, international event. So that'll be Friday and Saturday up in St. Catharines. It's a Southern Ontario Modern East camp. And then December 3rd, for all the World Modern East Alliance members, we are doing our yearly Christmas event, December 3rd in Buffalo West Seneca Horizon Martial Arts at our headquarters. Free event for all of our active members. Come on up, train, and then we'll do plate of food. If you're coming from out of town, kicking money per pizza or wings or stuff like that, don't worry about bringing a plate. Ty, you got anything you're promoting?
Nothing I'm promoting, but for my Texas friends, I'll be in Texas the middle of January and also again in the middle of February. And then, everyone else keep an eye out for the other things. My spring thing will be March, April timeframe.
I just got named to David Kovar's conference in Jacksonville, Florida for the end of January.
Excellent. Okay.
Okay. And Zombie. Do you think that's PJ?
I think it's CP.
What?
CP.
Okay. All right. Okay. It could be. Yeah. Could be. So we'll have to all figure that out.
That's right.
All right. So next week's show, we're going to have Miguel Ruby from FMA Supply. Hopefully, I have to just verify. If not, we'll come up with a last minute show on that. So it's going to be a 2-parter. First one is going to be on FMA Supplies, which really shouldn't take that long. And the second half, urban legends from the Philippines, or Philippine martial arts urban legends.
Okay.
Like, is Kali the mother art?
Oh, I thought we were going to talk about, what's a manananggal.
We do that too. All right, listen, everybody. As always, it is a pleasure. Please, if you've watched this on YouTube, like it, subscribe, hit the notification button, and share this video wherever you feel is appropriate. So on that note, I am Datu Tim.
Hey, PG Ties here.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you all soon.